Today we're going to write our first C# console application. And when I initially tried to do this, it wouldn't work. In order to compile a C# console application, you need a C# compiler, which is called CSC. And it wouldn't run in the DOS window. And it turns out to once again be a problem with the path. So what you've got to do is find out where CSC.exe is located and then append that to the path. It turns out where it's located on my PC is C:\Windows Microsoft.NET framework and then version 2.0.50727. And it's probably going to be close to the same on yours. It's probably going to be Windows Microsoft.NET framework and probably v2.0, but the point subversion might be different on yours. But that's a good place to look. I actually located it by going into the registry and finding out what a registry value was set that pointed to it. And once you've located it, you've once again got to edit the path and put this string as one of the entries on the path. So the way that we do that is we click on the Start button, go to Control Panel, go to System, then select Advanced System Settings and Environmental Variables, and scroll down and find the path, and then click Edit. And as you can see, I already appended it to the end of my path. Let's see if I can just scroll it over a little bit. There's the last semicolon, and then there's that substring that's the last entry on the path. And I'll just hit Cancel since I've already done this. And once you've done this, what you want to do is open a command prompt or DOS box and just type in CSC and maybe -help, and that should display a string of possible values for putting after the CSC. As you can see, it did, which means no matter where I am, what subdirectory I'm in the DOS box, I'm able to access the CSC compiler. And the program we want to build is the standard first C# program, which just prints out Hello World. In order to get there, I'm just going to type HW, which is an alias I created for Hello World. And if you want to see how I created these aliases, you remember I have a directory called etc on the path, and I actually have an alias to get to that of ET. And if we just go into Notepad and look at hw.bat, you notice I first have @echo_off command, which just says don't echo the following commands to the screen. Just do what they say, but don't echo them to the screen. And then I say C:, which will put me on the C drive, and then CD and this elaborate string. CD stands for change directory. And this is where the Hello World program is located. And then I have a CLS, which just clears the screen. That's what all my navigation aliases look like. In fact, I pretty much usually just copy a file like this and then edit it to be the right directory. So once we're in our Hello World directory, let's do a dir, which is a directory listing of all the CS files. And you can see that I only have one, helloworld.cs. And remember I said when we opened the command prompt to go to properties and select, make sure this quick edit mode is clicked. And the reason for that is that there's an extremely useful feature where you can go over and select a string with your mouse, by clicking on the left button and dragging it, and then press the Enter key. That's the Enter key. And then if we want to say do a compile, we can say CSC for the compiler and then space and then press the right mouse button. That's the right mouse button. It's enter to copy and right mouse button to paste, and that'll paste whatever string you selected, and then hit enter, and couldn't find it. Oh, because I just typed hello world, not hello world.cs, which brings me to another useful feature. If you press the up arrow, it'll go to your last command. So I say up arrow.cs, I append that, and now I press enter, and it successfully did the compile. And now if I do npp, and right click to get what I copied, but I'm going to have to type the CS again. It'll take me into the editor of that, and we can see what the code looks like. Basically, I just have a using system, because the one command I'm going to use is Console.WriteLine, which is in the system namespace. And then I almost always have you have to have a class, and I always name the class the same thing as the external name. So this is hello world.cs, so I named my class name hello world. But you actually don't have to do that. I just think it's a good convention. But what you do absolutely have to do is have a main function that has the attributes public and static, and then it has a return value which can be void or can be int. You know, it can have different return values, but it has to be public and static, and it has to have the exact name main, and the main has to have a capital first letter. I always give the class the same name as the program, as the external program name. So the external program name is hello world.cs. So I give the class the name of hello world. And that's just a convention, really. But what is absolutely necessary is that you name the main function public, static, and then some return type, usually void or int, and then main. It has to be the name main, because the compiler and the executor are going to look for main as the main hook to start the program. You can have any number of other functions, but you have to have main as a starting point. I think the rest of the program is pretty self-explanatory. We just have a Console.WriteLine and a constant string of hello world, and then an end function and an end class. So if we go back into the DOS box, I can once again do a right click to put out the name that I copied a while back, and this time I don't need the CS because it's an exe, and we run that and we do indeed get hello world. And if there'd been an error or something, I could go back to previous commands, like especially back to the edit command and back to the compile command by doing the up arrow, and then down to next commands by using the down arrow, which saves a lot of time when you're working with the DOS box. Well, I think that completes everything we were trying to cover. I hope you enjoyed the lesson and learned a lot from it, and don't forget to subscribe. The next lesson I'm going to start getting into more complicated console programs, ultimately ending up in a program that I needed to write that's an actual practical program. So this isn't just an exercise in learning. I'm actually going somewhere. I'll see you next lesson.